Hi and welcome to this RapidStream tutorial. My name is Maurice and I want to show you how to create a new ad server and how to configure it, so that later on we can use it in our ad rules or kill switches. Creating an ad server is pretty easy, so let's get right into it. Before we start to create our first ad server, let's check the very basics. Well, obviously I'm already logged into the panel. But in order to create a new ad server, I have to make sure that I'm in the correct organization, which I'm not. I'm in my private dev organization. So I have to switch to the demo organization for this tutorial. I go to the select for the organizations and go to the demo organization. Now I'm switched to the right organization. So whatever you do, always make sure that you are in the right organization. If you only have one organization, no problem, but if you are in multiple organizations, make sure you're acting in the right one. So to create our first ad server, simply click on the ad server tile and then create a new ad server by clicking the create ad server button. We can now enter a name for our new ad server, for example, demo ad server. Hit enter or simply hit the create button. Now we are in the details view of our ad server configuration, and as you can see, our ad server is disabled by default and it's not set as a default server. As you can see here, our name is already set and we can now start with the basic configuration. So let's first start with the base URL, which is the foundation of our ad server configuration. Simply enter your ad server URL into this field. The system will detect changes and will automatically save them. So, changes are saved, so we can start adding some configurations. So, these configurations will later on be appended to the base URL. You can define URL parameters and assign values to it. So to make it very flexible, we added some different types of configuration. So let's have a look at them. As you can see, we have 4 configuration types. Let's start with the most simple one, with a simple text. In the flyout menu, you can see that you can add a target key and a target value. So let's try something. Let's say we want to fix our vendor. So we can add target key vendor, and it should always have a specific value. Let's keep it simple and say my vendor. Let's save the configuration and see what happens. So as you can see, we have our first configuration set. As before, everything is saved and you don't have to do anything. Okay, let's add another configuration, but this time we will get a bit more complex. Let's add a placeholder. Go to the drop-down menu, select placeholder. So as you can see, the flyout menu slightly has changed. So first of all, again, we have to enter a target key. Let's say we want to add a country option. So enter the target key country. So this time we don't want to set the target value to a static value. Instead, we want to make it flexible. And for that we can use a placeholder. Go into the target value field and start typing curly brackets. As you can see, a drop-down menu opens. RapidStream already comes with a lot of placeholders you can use. So you might have spotted it, there's also a country placeholder. So let's use this one. Now the target value is set to the placeholder. So let's save it. Perfect. So I want to show you 2 more things. Let's add another placeholder. This time we want to add a placeholder which isn't delivered by the system. So let's add a target key. Let's say we want to add a provider. So type in the target key provider. And now we want to add a placeholder. And this time we want the placeholder to be prefixed. Let's say it should always be prefixed with provider. And then we want to have our placeholder behind that. So type curly brackets. And as you see, there's no provider in the list. So if a placeholder isn't found, you can simply continue typing, hit enter, and the placeholder will be added to the list as a user-specific placeholder. Also, as you can see, it's added to the target value. Now, one more thing. In this case, if the target key isn't found, we don't want any value to be set. So let's click skip if empty. Perfect. Now let me show you one more thing. If I add another placeholder, and I won't add another one, I just want to show you, and I start typing curly brackets, as you can see, the provider we just added is now under the custom options. So every user in the system now has this placeholder at hand. Let's go back and add another configuration. The third configuration type I want to show you is the existence check. So this looks quite a bit different. Let's say we want to add a GDPR consent. So let's assume we have a key which is named, let's say, user consent, and we want to transform it. So we want to have a target key which is, let's follow the example, GDPR consent, this way. And we want to have a placeholder for the value. Let's copy and paste consent. So now if the user consent key is found, we will add a target key GDPR consent with the target value of the placeholder consent. So we can now decide what happens if the key isn't found. If we leave this field empty, the target key will be removed. If we add a value, this will be the default value if the key above isn't found. So let's say if there is no user consent key found, always set the target key to 0. So now, if the user consent key is found, the target key GDPR consent will be set to the value of the placeholder. If the user consent key isn't found, the target key GDPR consent will have the value 0. Let's save. Okay, let's add our last configuration type. This time we want to add a conditional configuration. So again, we have to choose a key. Let's say we are looking for a channel name and we want to set a specific channel, let's say ID. Okay, so what we can do now is we can add mappings. Let's add one. So let's assume that the channel name is, for example, sports. And if the channel name is sports, we want to set the channel ID to 1234. And let's add another mapping. So if the channel name is travel, we want to add the channel ID to the value 5678. Okay, and if none of those mappings is fitting, let's add another channel ID default, which is, let's say, 9876. So, if the key channel name is found and it's sports, the target key channel ID will be set to 1234. If the channel name is found and its value is travel, the channel ID will be set to 5678. If the channel name isn't found, then the default channel ID will be 9876. 676. So as you can see, with these mappings, you can build quite some complex configurations. Okay, I think we are done now. Let's save. Okay, so now we have an example of every configuration type. We have a text configuration with a simple key and value. We have a placeholder configuration with a placeholder provided by the system. We have a placeholder configuration with a placeholder we customized. We have an existence check. And we even have a conditional configuration. So what we could do now is set this very ad server as a default ad server. Or can we? Let's try. Go to default ad server, set as default. And as you can see, this doesn't work because we cannot set a default ad server if it's disabled. So first, let's enable our ad server configuration. Perfect. Now it's enabled, and now we can also set this very configuration as our default configuration. Perfect. So let's go back to the ad server list. As you can see now, here's our demo ad server with our base URL. It's enabled and it's our default ad server. So now we can add another ad server, or we can start configuring, for example, ad rules or kill switches. But that's content for another tutorial. See you then. Bye bye.